Morning, Agavach. Kovches, Simon Kovches, Chazzarah u'LeMaaseh. So let's begin. The subject matter, as we spoke about last Sunday, is the subject of Reicha, of whether or not smell is considered a transference of flavor. And that's going to be the law surrounding this. And there's machlekes in the Gemara, if Reicha milsi or not, Rav and Levi, and we paskin like Levi, that Reicha smell is not considered a thing that transfers flavor. But l'chatchila, we do not want to engage in such a scenario where smell is transferring from a place it shouldn't to a place it shouldn't. To be choishish for the opinion of Rav, so that becomes halacha. L'chatchila, reicha. L'chatchila, we're missing a booklet? No. I see a book up there, and if that's it, that's it. Up there, top right.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah? No, that's not it. So l'chatchila, we try to avoid reicha, we try to avoid interacting smells that shouldn't be, but post factum, we paskin that it's not of concern. It should be noted, as I noted on Sunday, we'll note this again because it's going to come up later in the Siman, that reicha and zeya are not the same thing. Smell, the transference of smell, and the leniencies around that, in that l'chatchila we avoid it, but the evidence fine. That is not true of zeya. It's not true of steam. When there's steam, then we have actual substance. We spoke about that once before, and it's going to come up again later in the Siman. And it should be noted that nowadays, with maybe some rare exceptions, but steam is pretty much prevalent in all of our ovens. Sorry, yeah, the steam goes everywhere. So much of the halachas that we're going to be learning don't become practical in our kitchen because our kitchen suffers or deals with the issue of zeya, whereas our Siman is giving leniencies b'negeya with respect to reicha, smell. Okay, so let's learn it nonetheless. Siman Kovches, chapter 108. One should not bake kosher and prohibited in one oven, and this contains 7 subsections. Aleph, Seif, Aleph, subsection 1. Ein Serlin Basar Ksheda, one should not roast kosher meat in Basar Nevela Oishal Behema Tmeya with non-kosher meat, whether it's non-kosher because it wasn't slaughtered properly, or whether because it's a non-kosher animal. Betaner Echad in one oven. One should not do so. Even though the 2 pieces of meat are not touching each other. So you shouldn't l'chatchila, because as we just said, l'chatchila we try to avoid the transference of reicha of smell. But b'di'evet, post factum, im tzalon, if you did go ahead and roast them, they are permitted. Even if the non-kosher meat was very fatty, and the kosher meat is lean, or vice versa. It's irrelevant. We don't do it l'chatchila, and post factum we don't care because smell is not a consideration. Now, because l'chatchila we are of the view that reicha is not a thing, therefore, in the circumstances where the reicha is an unlikelihood, we are lenient even l'chatchila, and that's what comes now. If the oven is so large, that it contains 12 esironim, isara, and that's the measure that's described in the base of Mikdash. I'm not really sure how big it is. Anybody want to chime in? How big is your base esronim? Anybody know? How big is 12 esronim? Does the English there have a note on that? How big is the 12 esronim? Did they give a volume, a measure? All right, this is the karbonas. Isaron. What? Doesn't say. Okay. So if it's so big that it's 12 esrainim, from now on, we're just going to refer to it as a large oven. Upi pasuach, 2 conditions. Big oven plus the mouth of the oven is open. So you have to imagine the old kilns, those old kind of big earthenware ovens. And sometimes they would have a chimney going out, depending on how they want to cook it. Chimney going out, and that's it. And they seal the door with clay, and then they break the clay when they're done. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes they actually cover it completely. They trap the smoke inside, and that's how they want to cook it. There are different types of, like, for example, I think it's called a cauldron, right? The cauldron is a kind of cooking cauldron where you trap everything inside, and then they cover it completely with coal so that nothing gets out, right? And the steam builds up, and it's part of the way they cook it. So there are different types of ways of cooking back in the day. So if this oven is both large and its mouth is open, mutter l'tzloisam, you could even be lechatchila do it, because again, reicha is not a thing. We're only machmer lechatchila, and in this case, because it's so far off, it's such a big oven and it's a big open door, the smell is not going to transfer. You can roast your kosher, not kosher lechatchila. Well, the bad, so long as they shouldn't touch each other, because once they touch each other, then there's a transference of flavor. See chapter 105 for the details of that. If one of the two, either the kosher or the non-kosher, is covered in a plate, or it's covered in dough, and the like, that is preventing the smell from coming in, you can then cook them, even in a small oven, and even where the mouth is closed, where you're trapping the zayah. It's not just reicha now. Because it's a small oven and it's closed, you're actually trapping the zayah, you're trapping the steam, but because one of them is completely covered, it's fine. Okay, we are more machmer, we have a double wrap, but it's essentially the same principle in which you are preventing the flavor from coming in because you're completely enveloping your either the kosher food or the non-kosher food. One of the two is being trapped in itself. Okay, I go from
simply because we don't need to ever go there. I mean, today we have appliances that. So
we do double wrapping. No, actually, no, I'm actually wrong. Zaya requires double wrapping because once you have liquid and liquid goes on the keli, it'll go through the keli and cause a problem. So this is only for reicha. The single cover is only for reicha. I'm sorry, but Zaya would have required double wrapping. We learned about that. When was it? Tzaddik Zion? I don't remember what it was. New Elliot. When what number?
We said right.
What number? What number was it?
With the ovens.
Zaya. When did we learn about Zaya? Yes.
Yes. We spoke about how there's a.
What simon was it? I'm looking for a simon.
I know we learned it.
No, who are the guys who know the numbers? None of us. Wonderful.
I remember the oven on the 7th. Yeah.
We learned about it when we learned about Zaya.
Yes. Don't ask us what simon is something from.
I would fail that test. I'm very bad at remembering these things. Okay, let's go. You know, it's probably going to come up. Yeah, it's the Gimel. That's where it is. 93. Not because of memory, but because the Ramah cites it. Okay, let's learn the Ramah now. Okay, we'll learn the Ramah first, and then we will look at our practical stuff. Says the Ramah, the same thing is true of milk and meat. The law is the same. That is, to begin with, you shouldn't put them together. If they were put together and there's no steam, it's just a question of reich, of smell. It's okay. And if it's a big oven and the door is open, it's okay even lechatchila. Now, I mentioned on Sunday that, if I remember correctly, I don't remember how many, but I listed like 6 or 7 considerations that one should have when considering the transference of reicha. Is it big oven? Is it small oven? Is it closed? Is it open? Is it covered? Is it not covered? El chatchila b'diavad. Is there zaya? Is there no zaya? So the Ramah is not going to go through all of those considerations. Namely, the noyagin, it's our custom lahachmer lechatchila to be stringent in the first instance. Afilu b'tanar gadol, even in a big oven. So the Mechaber said in a big oven, there's no reason to be machmer. Says the Ramah, our custom is to be machmer in a big oven. But the diavad post factum lahaka, we are lenient afilu b'tanar katan, even in a small oven. So I agree with the Mechaber in principle that the diavad, it's okay even in a small oven. What I'm adding is that in the big oven where the Mechaber said it's lechatchila okay to do, and I agree, our custom is to be machmer in lechatchila. But the fact that we're lechatchila machmer even in big ovens doesn't mean we're more machmer on small ovens b'diavad. We're still b'diavad okay with small ovens. But the reicha is not a thing. Okay, skip the parentheses, which is citations. Okay, now the im of that's law halacha 1, halacha 2. Im of a pasim basar. If you baked bread with meat, you're not allowed to eat it with milk, assuming there's no zayah. So it doesn't become fleshik. But why should I say that you can't eat it with milk? If he has other bread. Why? Because what did we just learn? We said lechatchila, don't engage with a reicha issue. But b'diavad, okay. So this view is, we had this once before, what exactly constitutes lechatchila and b'diavad? Does lechatchila and b'diavad mean before and after you cooked it? Or lechatchila and b'diavad mean before and after you ate it? or before and after you mixed it with milk. So in this case, you shouldn't have baked the bread with meat. We already learned you shouldn't make bread milchik or fleshik. Okay, you you did it. Now it didn't really become fleshik anyway because it was only a reicha issue. But because you can eat it plain, right? It's still considered lechatchila. Don't eat it with milk, even though it's b'diavad. It's post factum of cooking it with meat. It's pre factum in terms of eating it with milk, and therefore avoiding eating with milk is still considered lechatchila. That's the shita here, even though it's already cooked with meat. There's like two stages to the lechatchila when you have milk and meat. When it comes to kosher and non-kosher, the only pre and post is, did you cook it with the non-kosher? Did you not cook it with the non-kosher? When it comes to milk and meat, there's the pre factor is like we had with the lemon in our case in the story, the lemon juice. So at the whole time it was just fleshik. So lechatchila, don't eat it with milk. Because it's not a b'diavad anymore. It's a lechatchila. You haven't eaten it with milk yet, according to the shita. It's the same thing here. Even though it's post factum of having baked it with meat, it's pre factum of having eaten it with milk.
Right.
And therefore, if you have other bread available, don't eat it with milk. That's what the Ramah says. And the same thing is true. We're going to be of kosher and non-kosher bread. If a non-Jew baked bread with his non-kosher food, also pass. Do not buy that bread. If other bread is available. This is not even a question of pas akum.
Right.
It's not the question here. It's a separate story. This is a question of the bread was baked in a non-kosher oven. Right? Remember, we spoke about this once before, that you were using a communal oven. And at the time when your bread was baked, your non-kosher neighbor also had a non-kosher food in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a big oven, it's open, so there's no reicha issue, there's no zeya issue, but it's still lechatchila. If you have other available bread, don't eat it. The chol zamek lechatchila, because all this is still considered in the first instance. But if you don't have readily available other bread, I mean, you don't have to go make yourself crazy and buy new bread. But if you don't have readily available other bread, you can eat, in both cases, it's okay. Eat your bread with the cheese and eat your bread, period, that came from the non-kosher, with the non-kosher food in the same oven.
Was this bread double wrapped?
No, because again, there's no zeya issue, it's just a reicha issue, just a smell issue. So it wasn't even double wrapped. Let's assume it's a big oven, the door's open.
There's no steam because
No steam.
it's gonna just come out.
Correct. No steam issue, it's just the issue of smell. Right? Which we're learning that smell, we say lechatchila, avoid, that you have it okay. So it says the Ramah, if the other bread is not readily available, does that make it in this, for this consideration, it's considered b'diavad. So b'diavad doesn't lechatchila means even before you eat it, even though after you baked it. But b'diavad doesn't mean that your hands are tied and you're starving to death and this is the only bread available. B'diavad means you want to have bread with cheese and you don't have any other bread available. Okay, so eat the bread with cheese. That's already considered b'diavad. Okay, next halach. Yesh omer. There are those that say, so we learned in the Mechaber two halachas, which the Ramah agreed with. Small oven, lechatchila no, b'diavad yes. Big oven, lechatchila yes. Big and open oven, lechatchila yes. Ramah added, custom is to be machmer by big and open oven. Now we're adding another opinion, which says like this. Even b'diavad, even post factum, we don't allow transference of smell unless the oven is open a little bit on the side or on top. At the place where there's the chimney for the smoke to come out. It seems to me, if I understand correctly, it's an additional opening besides for the smoke exit, the steam for the chimney. There's an opening there too. Is that the way they understand it in English there? How do they translate it in English?
Smoke escapes, right?
Another one or the same opening?
This oven being used is slightly open on the side or above in the spot where the smoke escapes.
In this spot where so it seems to me that's actually a separate opening. It's another opening to allow air to filter out besides for the steam, besides for the smoke.
Either or.
It seems to me like it's another opening, not just the smoke one, but another one that ventilates out. That's what it seems to me what's happening.
I mean, two openings.
Yes, that's what it seems to me, unless I'm misreading it. But it seems in English also that they understand it that way as well.
Unless the oven being used is slightly open on the side or above.
Or above, in this spot, which means it's not just the chimney, it's another opening near the chimney.
Yeah.
That's what it seems to me is the right way to understand it. Sorry? The Taz doesn't comment anything on that.
This is what we had. This we had before. Right? We had the question.
Sorry?
With the oven. And this we had before.
Now what?
With the oven. If it's open. If it's.
That's what we're learning right now. Okay, so let's now see the what the Ramah is saying. So Ramah is saying like this. The Mechaber said, "Lechatchila reichel not an issue, but the evidence okay, even if the oven is small and closed." Says the Ramah, there's another opinion which says that you can only allow the diavad small oven if it's somewhat open. Yeah. But said the Ramah, in the case of a loss, not big loss, any loss, don't be stringent. He's not saying we're not stringent and it's okay for you to be stringent. He's instructing you, do not be stringent. Don't throw that very good bread away. Just,
Where'd you get the small oven from? In this case.
Beginning of why is it a small oven? Yeah, why is it a small oven? Because the big oven, we said the chatzchila anyways, you can be okay.
I see.
Right? So the only chumrah was, the kula was b'diavad, even by a small oven.
Don't say on every oven.
That even the big one?
Yeah.
Because the big one, he said the chatzchila you're allowed to. It wasn't an issue b'diavad.
But
maybe you're right. But like the big ovens, okay, maybe you're right. Are you sure? Actually, the Shach said it's a big loss, by the way. Even though the Ramah says hefsid, the Shach said hefsid meruba, just down, by the way. And to your question about whether or not it's a big oven or not.
I
don't know why it would be a big oven. I think it's even a small oven. I think it's a small oven because a big oven, the chatzchila anyway, you're okay. Okay, so continue now. But now in a case of loss, or Shach adds big loss.
Okay, according to the Mechaber, you're not okay, even according to how the Ramah was bringing.
The Ramah backed up the Mechaber, with the accepted fact that there's a minute to be machmer by the big oven.
Yes.
But now he's bringing another shita, which is b'chlal, the whole b'diavad is only if there's an opening. That b'diavad was when it's a small oven. That was the b'diavad case, which is the shita that now saying you have to have an opening for the b'diavad. But then he says, when it's b'diavad, don't be machmer, after the parentheses, afilu sasam lagamri. If there's a loss, don't be stringent even when it's completely closed. Because again, our shita is reichalav milsahi. Okay? Now again, the Shach adds it's a big loss, not any loss. Okay. Now, next consideration. So we covered the considerations of open, closed, big, small, and the various different shittas. Right? Shitta 1, big, open, no problem, even the chatchila. Small and closed, don't, but b'diavad it's okay. And Shitta 2 is minhag to be machmer by big and open. Right? And opinion 2 is that when we were make b'diavad, it's only if there's some opening. But when it's a loss / big loss, according to Shach, don't be machmer even if it's totally closed, as per the Mechaber, which is the original proper view. Clear? Okay. Now, next consideration. Right? So we covered the consideration of the size of the oven. We covered the consideration of it's a chatchila b'diavad, and whether or not pre-eating the bread or post-eating the bread counts as b'diavad or l'chatchila. Yes, the Ramah saying that it counts as l'chatchila, but b'diavad means it's going to be too difficult to find more bread. Yeah. Now another consideration. If the prohibited thing is a sharp food, spicy food, sharp food, much more so in my head if the kosher food is very sharp, then the flavor the smell is considered something of flavor. I guess because sharp food has this capacity to draw flavors in, even from smells. Because sharp food themselves, half the flavor they provide is smell. Okay. I feel it with the evet, and therefore even post factum, usher. No, mostly. Period. Now, new case. I feel it with the evet, even post factum, usher is forbidden. If both of them are open. Right? This yeah. So the Ramah is adding that if both of them are open, then then they're b'diavad both aser,
If one of them sharp.
because one of them is sharp. Yeah. And there's a discussion in the Taz whether this means dafka if it's a big oven and open or not. But the Ramah seems to say it's irregardless.
In all these cases, is everything unwrapped and open, or
Sorry again?
in all these cases that we've been doing with small, is everything unwrapped and open?
We're assuming that
Or
there's
we-
no steam.
It's just assuming. There's
Yes.
no steam.
The reason there's no steam, actually, I should mention this earlier, is because in those days their ovens were so hot that the steam evaporated quickly before anything else. Today they're not that hot. Just think of those kilns, right? You know, it's dry as a bone in there. The surface isn't when you take your food out, it's not that the surface is going to be liquidy like our ovens,
Right.
where there's liquidy on the surface because of steam.
Glass is covered
It's
in-
right.
Oh.
You have that, right? You have residue food.
Cold
It's
air.
absorbed in the kiln, right? That's-
Look, it's also it's dried out. It's so hot, it's dried out. It's dried out as a bone. You touch those the
You need
lime
an
or whatever.
opening for that to happen. You need some opening where something where-
Sorry?
Don't you need some opening where
You know they make coal. You know they make coal. Literally, they make coal. They burn wood and trap everything inside. Right? I like to watch. Sometimes I like to watch these videos with my
Yeah.
kids. These videos, to see these old things. It's very cool. By the way, I came across one of these little videos of a guy demonstrating how to make soap out of ash. It's not. We spoke about that
Uh-huh.
once. I forgot I wanted to share with everybody. At any rate, so they trap you trap the whole entire smoke inside, and you let it burn out till it's done, and you take it out, and you have completely dry coal. Completely dry.
Right.
The heat is so intense that it dries everything out. Not sure how, but that's what it was. But today it's not that hot. The only close example of that is like when you do like self-clean. When you do self-clean, that thing is dry as a bone when you're done.
Right.
Your food will also be dry as a bone. So maybe that's why we don't like to do it. I don't know. Anyway, okay. If one is covered, I feel it's like even with dough, ba'alma at all. That's all it is. Mutter, it's okay because it's covered already, and the sharpness is not going to absorb the flavor from the smell. Now, here comes the issue of Zayah.
So mutter over here means b'diavad? When he says mutter? Still, it's only b'diavad, right?
Presumably, it's only b'diavad, especially considering the Ramah, we said before that the minhag is to be machmir even by a big and open oven. The minhag is. So presumably it would be b'diavad. Okay. Now here comes the issue of Zayah that the Ramah is reminding us to remember. Yeah.
One last thing. You assume that if you double wrap something, then there's no smell that transfers for you.
Sure, not even Zayah. That's the whole point of
but
double wrap, yeah.
I'm trying to say, smells a lot easier to pass through than steam.
I think?
Yeah, sure. The
Interesting.
aroma can definitely linger and perforate a lot more than because steam is like
Okay.
actually has to penetrate.
But here we're lenient on smell, even if one is covered. Never mind, both are double covered, just one cover. Covered with a plate there, the Machaber said, B'kaida, good morning. Right? So for sure we'd be okay with double wrapping. Okay, now the Ramah tells us reminds us about Zayah. If they baked or roasted, prohibited, the heter and kosher. Tachas machvas achas, under one pan, magulin and both the kosher and non-kosher are exposed. Usher, it's okay. It's problematic. I feel like even post factum. So I guess the case there is like this. I'm imagining they're old ovens that get very hot, right? So ordinarily the steam would get burnt out, but you put two pots one next to each other like this, and you put and there's like like they have like inside the ovens like these little things hanging where you could put another pot hanging. So it's like that. So it's low enough that the steam goes up and down before it even evaporates and burns out. And thus there's steam transferring from one to the next. So even b'diavad, even post factum, it's going to be awesome.
Even if there's holes in the ovens or anything.
Doesn't matter because there's steam going between the two.
But steam rises with the heat.
And it also drips down.
If there's an opening at the top of the oven,
No, if there's something in front of it.
There's something on top. There's a barrier.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying tachas machvas. It's only under. If there's no machvas, you're okay. You only have an issue of reicha and you're fine. But because there's a machvas, because there's a pan on top of it that's preventing the steam from escaping, it's trapped under there and it creates like a little.
and if there's nothing on top, what if it's one next to the other? And
Then
it's
we're
very
back to
hot
the issue of
and it
reicha.
goes up.
Then we're back to the issue of reicha and you're okay. Again, not in our ovens, but in those ovens. Yeah. Okay. Meaning our ovens are like this, where the pan traps our ovens like this, where the pan traps the steam.
Because there's a definition, there's a box.
Exactly. And it doesn't get that hot to burn everything out. Okay. But who adin, the same thing is true. If you baked in such a fashion, pas in basar, bread with meat. Also, you cannot eat that bread with milk because again, it has not just reicha, it has zeya, not just smell, it has steam from the milk, and therefore you cannot have it with bread. You can have it with cheese. I'm sorry. But if you baked one and then the other, it's not a problem. Unless you did it so quickly they didn't have enough time for the steam to dry out, and now it's dripping steam from the previous cook into your new cook. To us, usher, then it's a problem. Even one after the other. If both of them are exposed, both pots, both the time to cook are uncovered. Because this machvas is like the cover of an oven. We have kosher, a cover of a pot. We have kosher and not kosher in the same pot with a cover, and the steam is mixing together.
Again, so it's so hot that there's no water in there. But obviously, when you open it, then there's going to start getting steam inside of it. So you have to take your thing out right away. And
If you're putting the next thing in,
you have to wait before you
correct. If you put the next thing in and it's still dripping steam from the previous bake, from the previous cook, now your bread is flashing.
Or
it's safe.
when the cold air mixes in, and then you're going to start having
Something like that, yeah.
liquid.
And he says, as I explained previously in chapter 93. That's how I knew it was in Tzaddik Tal, not because of my memory. Okay. So that's Zeya. Says that Ramah, be careful with Zeya, and again, our ovens have Zeya.
By this logic, when they do communal cook, you got to be there right when they open the door to take your food out right away.
So in the old day, today we have our own oven, so we don't really think about these things. But in the old day, going to a communal oven was a whole consideration.
I know, but
Who's there? Who's not there?
Right.
Is the guy going to be nice to you? Is he not going to be nice to you?
Right.
Which kind of spatula is he using? We learned last time, right? So all these things are going to be considerations.
In Morocco, when they would bring their cholent, they would put mud.
A seal.
They would seal the pot so no steam could go out of it completely.
So that they didn't even double wrap, I assume, because the reicha is not an issue because they closed it, and the ovens are so hot, it's not even getting steam. It's so hot, they're not even getting steam anyway, right? It's more like a cauldron they're putting in there. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's continue. I want to finish the simon today, so we're gonna finish it. We're not pushing off more. Okay. Yesh. I remember those that suggest continues the Ramah. In any instance where we say that smell is a problem and post factum you shouldn't eat it, as per the opinions we mentioned before, because it's not open, let's say, right? But the Evid, we said, Ram Chaber said it's fine anyway. But there were cases when we said that the Evid, it's a problem, like where there's no opening, and it's a small oven, according to that opinion that Ramah quoted earlier. Then Hayudafka, this is specifically the Lake of Shishim and Heter Neged the Isser. If you don't have 60 times in the kosher against the non-kosher.
For sure.
If you have, well, it depends on what's going on.
Right.
If you have 60 of kosher against the non-kosher, even combining everything. So if 10 Jews went to go cook at a non-kosher oven, and they all have 10 big kosher cholents, and there's one non-Jew who has a small little, and they're big families. We're Jewish families. We got 10 kids, so they're making massive cholents. And those 10 cholents are 60 times the amount of that small little lamb that the guy's making for lunch. Not kosher lamb. So combine all 10 ovens is 60 times combine all 10 cholents is 60 times that little lamb. Kosher. So Mavatla Isser nullifies the non-kosher. Well, I've said Yesh Ninakain, and in situation where there's going to be some loss, doesn't say great loss, just says loss. Even though the Shach here again comments and says Hefsid Miruba. Yesh Ninakain, you could be lenient to use this nullification of 60. That's an interesting nullification. It's not as if the flavors are mixing together, it's nullified. You're basically claiming that the smell diffused equally all over to not be nullified or something like that. It's kind of funny nullification. But you could rely on it in case of loss or great loss as per Shach. Yesh, I remember those that suggest the Isser, any prohibited thing that's going to forbid other things in the tiniest amount, where there's never a bittul. Going, for example, Chametz Pesach. Chametz on Pesach is Asur B'Mashu, and you can't be nullified by 60. Then Reichel Milsi. Then you say that the smell does count for something. But Oyster prohibits. Afilu b'di'evet, even post factum. If it's a closed and small oven where the smell is trapped, so the smell isn't considered something to prohibit, but it's still considered a something, the tiniest amount. So if you're talking about an Isser, which is forbidden in the tiniest amount, like hummus and Pesach, then the smell would be for something, if the smell is indeed there, because it's a small enclosed oven.
That's why we do risky things before Pesach.
Because before Pesach,
Yeah.
you can nullify things. On Pesach, you can't. That's correct. Okay. But Isser v'heter magulin, and if both are open. If the matzah is closed, or the kosher Pesach is closed, or the chametz is closed, then it wouldn't be a problem. Teichatan in the oven. Skip the parentheses citation. Another consideration. No difference between whether it's chametz or Pesach, whether it's aser b'mashu or not. Reicha, smell is never going to be an issue. Always the same halacha. From makom hefsid, and in a place where there's a loss, you can rely on those who are lenient to say that smell isn't considered anything, even when it's a prohibition that would be aser in the tiniest amount. Later, chapter 118.
He said the opposite of what he said. He said, and there are those who say that we should not differentiate.
And therefore always be lenient.
Between foods that forbid even to a minuscule amount.
And therefore always be lenient.
We should be stringent with regard to both. Shach tesvav.
That's the.
But it says we could be lenient.
No, monetary loss.
Yeah.
One second. The Shach Tezvav, I'm looking at Shach Tezvav. I don't see it there. Hold on 1 second. No, sorry. He quotes at the end, Shuvas Mariel. Recha lav milsehi. Ein chiluk ben chametz the aser mashal the shari surim ein sham. To be lenient. Recha lav milsehi.
Allah is the same, whether it forbids with a minuscule amount.
And therefore, you should be lenient. The first opinion was to be stringent when it's aser b'mashu. And the second opinion is the fact that it's aser b'mashu doesn't make it more stringent. Look at the end of the Shach that he's quoting in Tezvav.
So what's the point of saying? So what's the point of saying afterwards?
Yeah. That there is no difference, and that even by chametz b'mashu, it's still not a problem.
But he says in the case of monetary loss, we could rely on those who are lenient.
To say that even when it's chametz on Pesach,
there's
still,
those who differentiate.
1 second. To be lenient, where? In which case? In the case of chametz on Pesach. On those who say that Reichalav will see even by chametz on Pesach and rely on them. That's how I understand it.
Saying the text is wrong.
In Hebrew, it doesn't say anything like that.
Over here, but the Maril clearly says that the halacha is the same, whether it's forbidden with a minuscule amount or a larger amount.
Say that it's not an issue.
The Yesh angry.
Okay, you know what? Look at the. Hey, do me a favor. Look. He quote. Okay, look at the look at the end of the Shach, the Maril. Second to last line. Miu, however, look in the Hebrew. Look in the Hebrew. Miu, end of Tezvav. Miu. He's quoting the Maril. Yeah, look. Miu, the Jewish Maril, some could pay Gimel Motzasi. In the Maril, some could pay Gimel I found. Lamando Marech Lav Mils. The Lamando Amar, following the view which says Recha Lav Milsehi, smell is not an issue. Ein chiluk, there's no difference between chametz pes to aser b'mashu. Whether it's chametz that forbids in the tiniest amount, l'shari soon to any other prohibition, Recha is not an issue. Recha Lav Milsehi. The opinion that says there's no difference is to be lenient even by chametz. Even by chametz. That's the, unless I'm missing something in the Shach, this seems to be pretty straightforward to me. Right? I don't know. Okay, later, chapter 118, this was basically this one we're not touching today, but it's about whether or not on one stove you can have at the same time, not an oven where there's trap, but it's one stove, whether or not you should cook kosher or not kosher at the same time on one stove. Okay, let's see if there's any practical things. I think I mentioned already. Okay, we went through all of this. Here we spoke about this. There's an interesting thing, which is I did halacha, which is sometimes forgotten, but it should be noted that when you're taking challah, right? Take challah from bread,
Uh-huh.
you have to burn it.
Yeah.
That challah is also to eat.
Right.
So when you burn it, where are you burning it?
Can't put
Fire.
Huh?
not together with your food. The rate is going to go into the food.
The reicha of your non-kosher bread, kosher dough is going to go into the rest of your food. So it really should be double wrapped.
People,
So a
some people leave it in
little
the oven.
halacha that's overlooked sometimes.
People leave it in the oven all week. Because
You get to double wrap it, that's fine, no problem, as long as you double wrap it. That's actually non-kosher smell, non-kosher steam. Bread doesn't cause steam. That's a discussion.
I see most people freeze them in freezers when they came in.
Yeah.
People do that. You can do that as well.
Wait, so what do
But
you
if you're doing it in the oven, you have to make sure it's double
if it
wrapped.
happens, what do you do?
Okay, sit back. Let's go forward.
I've noticed it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Like, oh, this is our.
We could be lenient, Rabbi, or no?
What?
Most ovens nowadays are open because they're advanced.
I just finished explaining that actually nowadays we have steam in all our ovens. They're not hot enough. So you can be lenient on reicha, but you have the shtuchumar of zeya, which is even more machmir than reicha anyway.
So let's say the person burns
Our ovens,
So something.
yeah, you're not baking food in self.
No, but I'm saying if you're putting
Right?
just the.
Our ovens are more like the case where you have the pan on top of two food with the steam that's under it.
So if the bread goes up, what do we do? It happens.
I know what you're
I've
saying.
seen it. People single wrapped it, made a mistake, and they put a bit. Let's say the toaster, they put a bagel.
Okay, toaster for sure is not hot enough to get rid of steam.
So what do you do?
Sorry,
What do you do?
what do you do?
The cost of the toaster.
And that's a small oven enclosed. And what can describe the case?
No, you put the challah in, you put on the oven or toaster, and it goes, and you put a bagel inside, you put your bread inside the oven.
So far, you just described a bunch of powerful things. Where's the give me the
Oh,
case?
the challah, you said.
Challah is part.
You
Give me the
said
case. What's the case?
The problem is it has to be burnt.
You're talking about challah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be covered, double wrapped.
So if it's not, it happens. People make mistakes. I've seen it. Like
Okay, so I don't think reicha doesn't make the oven so tight that you have to like kosherize it, but the food that's cooked at the same time can be eaten at the same time. Yeah, or you can rely in case of hefsid on the 60 times.
and if not, you can't rely on that there's a vent in the oven.
No,
I don't think so.
no, because
I don't think so.
receive the steam and liquid flies everywhere.
I do not think so.
So why in Pesach you don't have to clean the oven crazy. You just have to do self
You just stop cleaning.
Okay, so why we're mixing things up? Self-clean is burning it out, kasherizing it. What does that do with this case?
Oh, but there's still maybe like tiny things of ground.
Kashering, self-clean burns everything out to a crisp. Goodbye.
You clean your oven first.
It's a separate issue, right? That's
Yeah.
it's not the related. It's not the you're not baking. Saying we're mixing two different things. One is
No,
you're
it's
baking
not-
at normal heat, where you're baking things in the same time when you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's one issue, and the other thing is kosherizing it using self-clean, but you're not having food in there, and you're burning everything out.
It doesn't come perfect though.
It doesn't come perfect.
Like the oven, self clean, not perfect.
Anything that first of all you should clean it out before,
Yeah.
but anything that's left behind is like ash.
Huh?
It's not even. It's nothing.
Okay.
Anything it would be the mamish ash.
Before you start self cleaning, you shouldn't see anything in your oven.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue because we're getting late. Babe, sorry, I don't know. You clear? Are we clear, Aaron?
Yeah.
That answer the questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big thing. I've seen it before, so I have to check.
Like machala.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it. It's an often overlooked halacha. That based on what we're learning now, you have to double wrap your challah before you burn it in your
Technically
oven.
good. You put non-kosher things in your oven also and cook it. And then after just put kosher after.
Again, our ovens are zeya. We can't rely on this simon in here. Simon here.
But
Right,
in the bagel factory, they're putting
When they don't produce zeya, so they shouldn't, but yeah, it'll be okay, right? Because it's an open oven. It's an open big oven. So we're just learning here. If it's an open big oven and it's that hot, then they shouldn't, but yeah, it'll be okay.
I'm turning to commercial. How could this apply? Like,
They would use that in commercial. I'm sure in commercial
there's that here.
kitchens they would do rely on this, where it's hot enough that there's no zeya, or it's big enough that there's no zeya. But lechatchila, again, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure they do rely on this. Why shouldn't they? It's a good din in the Shulchan Aruch. What if I didn't? Nowadays.
No, but everything with the oven
So
is
that's a good question.
different.
Because Ashach said you shouldn't rely on it only when it's hefsid meruba. Which today there's no such thing as hefsid meruba. We have big enough productions, no one's gonna go starving.
No.
You can sell to a non-Jew, you'll be fine. Right? So there's almost no hefsid meruba. But the Ramah, if you take the word Ramah literally, he said any hefsid you could be lenient, right? Which would mean if it's a question of throwing out the bread, don't do that. Maybe.
It's crazy.
Anyway, okay. Let's go right there. Did that answer the questions, Aaron?
Like,
Okay. Sorry? There's a few more sifim, but there's not a lot, but we have to just get through it. Okay, Medvar Mamorim. When is this all true? It's sully when you're roasting. Meaning, roasting, yeah. Meaning that both the foods are in direct contact with the oven. If you're cooking kosher and non-kosher in pots, this one in this pot, this one in that pot. Your cholent case in Morocco. I feel without a cotton, even if it's a small oven, and it's a closed oven, mutter, it's okay. Even though the covers are open, again, steam is not an issue, it's only a recha issue. Because they're each in their own separate pots, they don't take smell as much from each other. But, says the Rama, we disagree. As per the previous simon, the dafka shtana pasuach ksas. We already learned before that the Rama quoted this opinion that where the machaber was makel b'di'eved with a closed and small oven, we said we do so conditionally that's somewhat open. Same thing here. The dafka shtana pasuach ksas, and dafka only if the oven is open somewhat. If it's completely closed off from all sides, as is the way of people for concealing their cholent for Shabbos, also then it's forbidden. That's completely closed off, and the smell will transfer if both the kosher and non-kosher are in pots that are uncovered. Even post factum, you should be people are stringent and prohibit it. If both the kosher and non-kosher are uncovered. And a case of loss, shach, great loss. Sorry, here he said in the case of great loss, Rama himself says that we could be lenient. Okay, Gimel. Now we're learning the halacha of the pan I mentioned before, the spatula, kind of like a pizza spatula, right? What they would use to take in and out the bread that's baked in the ovens. So again, you're going to the communal oven, and the guy is using his spatula to get your bread out. You have to pay him a few kopecks.
There's pig fat on that, right?
The bread's not in a pan, like they put.
The bread's on the bread is on the surface of the stone of the oven, and it's a big wide open oven. Yeah, so it's a big wide open oven. So there's no issue of zeya, no issue of recha. Let's say you're following the mechaber, so it's totally lenient. Even, right? You're ignoring the yesh noegin that the Rambam mentioned. If it's big open, okay, you're baking your bread in there. Wonderful. And then the guy's going to take his little spatula to his little pizza thing to get your bread out. So it says the Rambam, says the Mechaber, Gimel Imesh Amnu Nishal Isser Ala Marda Shekarin Pala. Arabic word. What does Pala mean?
Pala
Let me see if it's an Arabic word.
is a kitchen, I think.
Pala is a kitchen?
I think pala means kitchen.
It should be some form of spatula. Fala, maybe? Fala?
I don't know.
I thought it was an Arabic word.
Languages
I think it's Arabic. Maybe I'm making it up. No idea. Because it's the Beis Yosef speaking. So imagine the language he's referring to is Arabic. My guess.
Pala.
Actually, maybe it's Spanish. Maybe he's referring to like Ladino Spanish. Maybe.
That would be paella, which is actually a
Oh.
that they make. Paella, for example.
That's close. Pala the L could be a Y. Okay, anyway, sorry. Doesn't make a difference. So they're using this, if there's some sort of, a little bit of fat on this pizza spatula, also you cannot place kosher food on it. All that day, until such time that it becomes me, however, if it's a day old, you can use it. Because we cannot expect you to get your bread out any other way. We cannot expect you to go ask the goy to kosherize his spatula every time you come there. So if you're the first guy in the morning, so it hasn't been used since yesterday, you can use it. Special leniency that we're being given here, which is quite something.
Okay.
This just tells you how desperate they were. That they're willing to use we would never think of such a thing. Use a goy spatula, never. Even
Touching the food.
touching my food. That's hot. It hasn't been used in weeks. I would still never imagine to do such a thing. But for them, it's like I can't live otherwise. I need to eat my bread. I need to feed my family. It's mamish. Anyway.
Still, you needed to be the first one in the morning.
So presumably that's the way you would avoid making sure it wasn't used in the last day, because you're using it the first thing in the morning. I assume. Otherwise, how else would you?
The night. It's the leniency.
The leniency that it's right.
Overnight.
Right.
They're using the leniency that hasn't been used overnight.
Because
Which
it
is-
was used at the end of the day yesterday.
Yes.
We're here in the morning.
Because even though lechatchila we don't use not ben yomai stuff, because we're gzeda, maybe you use ben yomai. In this case, we're not going to give you that stringency and allow you to use the guy's thing.
Right.
And it's like you couldn't even afford your own spatula and say, "Here, use mine." You couldn't even do that
That's why he says, "Asher litain aleha heter kol hayom."
on that day. Correct. The next day, you're okay.
Yeah.
So presumably, you got to make sure the first one in the morning. That's what I'm assuming. What else?
Right, really early.
I assume so.
Community can't even afford this.
Yep.
Like I guess they
All
must.
the Jews come in the morning and
150 years ago, people had one pair of shoes for 5 people.
I'm talking about a whole
Yeah.
community.
No,
They
but
can't- they
I know,
can't
but
split
you're
special
talking about
days.
shoes.
The whole community is 6 families in the shtetl. Like, how big is the whole community already? and they're marching a half a mile over to the next shtetl where the guy owns an oven. No, really, I have to imagine these cases, right?
Crazy.
The Taz even gives more leniencies where they're
It
buying
also
bread
goes back
from
to-
non-Jews where they're using their own spatula. You assume they're using the same one for bread and not using for other things. Even more heter. Okay, let's continue. But so long as it's within the day, you cannot, you couldn't boil it out anyway because it comes in direct contact with heat. It has to have a libun, like your grill, but it's not like it's a pot that's boiled food in. It's direct heat, direct contact. The loy klipa b'kliyumnus, and you couldn't shave off it. You couldn't remove a klipa either where it touches anyway. So if it's ben yoima, you can't use it at all. But if it's not ben yoima, we're giving you a special leniency. Okay, of course, not so relevant today. But I'm not saying that kosherizing this thing won't help in an unusual case. You have to do libun because it's like a grill. It's direct heat and direct contact with the food. So you can't boil it out and you can't also peel it. Exactly. Okay. Dalit. Paschama. So now we're other issues of smell, and smell specifically as it relates to yayin nesach. So what we have to consider, as I mentioned this last Sunday, what we have to consider is the food item meant for smell? And if it's meant for smell, the smell becomes a problem because that's its function. If the food is meant for eating and it also happens to produce a smell, then we're lenient on the smell. That's not what it's meant for. Okay, so let's see how that plays out. Paschama, hot bread. Shemunach agabe chavos, psucha, that's placed on an open barrel, shal yayin of wine. That's nesach, that's non-kosher wine. Yayin nesach. A sort of that bread is prohibited because it draws on the smell of the wine. It's hot, it will draw on that smell. And specifically when it's placed near the opening where it would actually siphon from that smell. But if the bread is cold, even if the barrel is open, or if the bread is hot, and the barrel is closed, mutter, it's okay. So it has to be both open and hot for it to siphon the smell. But if it was bread made of barley, which barley has a greater siphoning capacity, also it's prohibited in mapaschama if the bread is hot, but even though the barrel is closed.
Can you just explain how this would look like with an open barrel and hot bread? Like where's this like
Where is this happening?
like where is this
So I'll tell you where it's happening.
transferring?
You're going to a communal oven,
Yeah.
right? And you pay for your bread to be baked.
Yeah.
Right? And you come back an hour later to pick up your bread, and the guy tells you, "Oh, my bread's right there. Your bread's right there." And you see it sitting on top of the guy's barrel. As the guy who does have the oven also says wine.
I understand barrel's open.
Yeah. There's barrel opening on
Oh,
top.
you just meant a hole.
There's an opening on top, yeah.
So I was wondering, like the barrel, but the whole top would be off. I was like, how's this work?
No, it's open, just opening.
The hole.
Yeah, the opening is open.
Right.
And now your bread was hot, placed on top there. It's no good. If it was closed, it's okay. And if it was hot barley, even if it's closed, hot barley bread, if it's closed, it's also a problem.
Okay.
Hey.
Absorbs
Because
better.
barley absorbs better. It siphons better. So throughout the Gemara, we have this. Sorry?
The bread is made of barley?
Yes, the bread is made of barley. It has a higher siphoning capacity. I don't know how that works, but
And barrel is hot?
No, barrel's wine.
no, barrel's wine is not hot. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, hey,
Smell.
this is from the smell. Bread has capacity to draw on smell.
Yeah,
Hot bread.
Correct.
Correct. And in the case of wine, smell is a component of its component of its taste.
It is 100%.
Yeah, it's a component, right? You smell it, you sniff it. It's part of the. When you read the descriptions in the back, it tells you what nodes of smell you're going to experience when you
That's gonna be in hay anyway.
Sorry?
That's gonna be in hay anyway.
Exactly. So let's see now. Hey, mutter lishoif befiv, you can draw with your mouth, not with your nose. You're drawing with your mouth, so you're inhaling reyach yayin nesach, the smell of non-kosher wine. Why would we be doing that? It's like derech nekev through the. Oh, sorry.
How do you smell with your mouth?
You inhale.
Yeah.
And you smell with your, but can you?
I just did it right now, my coffee, and you can feel the smell on your palate. You can feel the smell on your palate.
Yeah.
Also,
Right?
when you breathe in a little bit, you also smell.
Some of it, you feel the smell on your palate. Now, why are you doing that? Lay that mutayv, because you're a wine connoisseur. You're a, what do they call it, the sommelier?
Yeah.
And this is what you do for a living. So the guy is calling you over to wants to know if his barrel is good or not. So he says you're allowed to. You're allowed to draw on the smell of the yain nesach with your mouth. Why is that? Because that smell is actually bad for you, not an enjoyable thing, and that's not the way it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah,
What
for
do you
sure.
mean it's not?
It helps, it has the taste, it has the taste, but
Yes.
if you're not drinking it.
It's
but
a negative
you're-
thing.
It's like a vinegary, like,
Yeah.
it's like not like.
That's correct. Yeah, we pitch. Why
Okay,
say ain't no
so it's just a tell, like it says, like if it's, you can tell if it's good or bad based on that, but it's
Yeah.
not a good.
Okay, right. But another case, yeah, because the smell, right? Because the wine is meant to be drunk,
Yes.
and the smell coming along with it is when you're drinking it. So when you're smelling it without smell, when you're smelling it without drinking it properly, that smell is not of a positive nature. Okay,
It makes sense though.
Nehemiah, like the book of Nehemiah.
It says he does his job really well, and he's a wine
Sommelier.
taster.
Okay,
How is he possibly a wine taster if it's yain nesach?
this is the answer. He's doing lots of smelling, lots of inhaling through his mouth. Okay, you cannot taste it after in a boiler, even though you don't swallow it. And this is true of any prohibited foods. You can't
Taste it.
taste it. You like put it on your tongue and spit it out,
Right.
which is also what the whiskey tasters or sommeliers do.
Yeah, sure.
That you can't do. You can't sprinkle yayin nesach onto something else where you're trying to give the smell from the wine onto some other thing, like a wine reduction type thing. You're sprinkling some wine. That's not allowed. Also about no, because you're not allowed to have hana from yayin nesach. Yayin nesach is a Chazzarah. So it's not just prohibited from eating, it's also prohibited in benefit. So just by sprinkling it and getting that smell flavor onto your food, that you're not allowed to have. By stam yayin of a goy, which is not definitely yayin nesach, that you may have hana. Stam yaina means wine that came from a goy. You don't know if you used it for yayin nesach means wine that was poured for libation. You don't know if you use it for avodah zarah. So stam yaina, or even if
So yain nesach has to be used for avodah zarah?
the strict laws of yayin nesach, yeah, that's why we have certain leniencies on stam yayin, right? Meaning you buy a wine that's not mavushal. There are different levels of how strict you want to be, but there are certainly certain leniencies. Even if the guy saw it, for example, we're lenient. Certainly, we're lenient with respect to stop drinking it for kiddush. Maybe we're machmer. Okay, there's different levels. Okay, continue. Zayin.
Nowadays, so there's no such thing as yain nesach.
The strict yayin nesach would only be.
We call it
Well, the
yain
Catholics do. The Catholics
nesach,
do.
but it's not yain nesach.
It might be yayin nesach. The Catholic wine might be yayin nesach. The Catholic wine, they pour libations, and if it's not avodah zarah, it's shituf. It's close to avodah zarah, certainly. That wine would be probably close to yayin nesach.
Not familiar. So,
They drink wine as
okay.
yeah.
I don't eat wafers.
Wine is the blood and wafer is the body. Yeah. I mean, Jews were blamed for trying to steal it.
Huh?
Yeah, for years.
Crazy thing, Jews were blamed. I forgot what it was called, but there was another version of the blood libel where the Jews were blamed for taking the wafer and stabbing it because they wanted to kill Yashka again. And it'd be like a whole thing. They stabbed it and blood came out. So you'd see it's really his body. Yeah. And Jews were murdered for that kind of garbage. All right, let's continue. Let's conclude the simon. Vav. Sakshal pulpulin, a bag of peppers, zangvil and ginger. Shemesimin mekankani yain nesach, that are placed into the barrels of wine that's meant to produce a flavor into the wine. You may use it to, you may smell from it because it's not the yain nesach itself, it's only that which is going to provide for the yain nesach. Aval b'samim l'havdalah, but for b'samim and havdalah, also it's prohibited. We mentioned before last Wednesday, the pasuk. What's the pasuk? Are you going to bring this to your minister? Right? Because you don't want to bring something that's associated with something so negative for a mitzvah. So don't use that spice for Havdalah, even though if you wanted to enjoy the smell, you could, because it's not the actual yayin nesach, it's only that thing that's going to provide for yayin nesach. And finally, Zayin, some shavet zara, shavet kachavim, spices that are meant for avet kachavim, that does exist today. between the Buddhists and even the Catholics. They have that incense they walk around with. I don't know if it's the Catholics or it is. I don't know. I don't think they do it. I think it's the Greek Orthodox who do it. Catholics also do it.
No, that's don't.
They don't walk with
It's
those.
the Russian ones who do it.
The Greek Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox. The Russian Orthodox may not be Avodah Zarah. They don't believe in the same kind of Trinity that they Catholics do.
They do.
They do, but it's not necessarily Avodah Zarah. Anyway, it's another discussion whether what that's Avodah Zarah. Okay, so some of the spices that are meant for actual Avodah Zarah, the Klaya Kerem, or it was the spices was grown in a fashion that one's not allowed to, crossbreeding, Arlo, or if it's the first 3 years. And these are the kinds of things which are not just prohibited in eating, but they are prohibited in having pleasure. You may not smell them. So this is a thing about, you're walking by Indian-owned stores.
Yeah.
You have
But it's with intent, the problem is only with
one should,
intent,
yeah,
right?
just you have to be careful of that. The same way, one is,
You can almost buy it and you can say, this smells good, but that's a
and
problem.
that's a problem right there.
That's a problem.
Correct. Because you don't know. It's not necessarily that's what it's order, but
It could be.
if they have pictures and things hanging around, it's quite possible that's
Are you
what it's
allowed
order
to buy
happening.
spices from them and use
Sorry?
those? Are you allowed to buy spice from some like them? and
Yeah, you can buy
use-
spices from them. Why
and then
not?
use those spices?
Yeah, they're selling spices. That's not necessarily for the Avodah. But if you walk into their store and they have those candles burning in front of the little Buddha, you have a problem to smell that thing.
Any spice used for cooking is not a spice they're used for Avodah Zarah.
Presumably,
Special aroma, like aromatic.
they do like to have these sticks that they burn
Yeah.
in front of a Buddha or something like that. That's a serious Avodah problem. Okay, wonderful week, everybody. God willing, on Wednesday we will do our intro to Koftes and Kofiyut.
What are morning sticks? Like
Morning.
in Asia, they have
Like
morning
where's the
sticks.
sticks, the spice?
Oh.
No, it's sticks that you stick inside of a little what's the little ashtray?
Yeah.
Put it in front of a picture of someone who died.
Morning.
It's like a morning. It's like a morning.
Is that Avodah Zarah?
I don't know if those are real small from it.
Is that even Avodah Zarah?
No, they're basically praying for this. Well, they're praying for like a force. They're praying for a force just to protect their loved one and praying for their loved one.
I don't know if it's Avodah Zarah. I don't know.
Right, because they're not really praying to a specific god. There's no god, and there's no
I have
real.
to get the details of what exactly they're believing and what they're doing. Even when it comes to Buddhism, there's a whole pill whether that's Avodah Zarah or not. The point we're passing it is Avodah Zarah.
Well, that's because of the statue
Because, well, they actually they don't believe in the statue having any
power.
power. It's more like a meditative thing. It depends which groups. Because Hinduism and Buddhism aren't the same necessarily, and the way they treat their statues. Whether they believe that the statue itself has divine power.
If anyone
But
says
even if they don't believe
about
it's-
Avodah Zarah and other religions, it would be Chabad who sent because they've shluchim.
Right. So even if they don't believe in the statue itself having divinity, but the Buddha has divinity. So it's a conceptual Avodah Zarah. It's kind of like Avodah Zarah where they, let's say, bow down to worshipping an angel would be Avodah Zarah, for example, let's say. So even if the Buddha is a concept, it's not physical, but that concept is still Avodah Zarah, considering that it's detached from God himself and they're giving it divine power.
They're temples, you're saying. They're
Right.
They're Buddhist temples.
Even though the stone, they always kinda that we treat our physical objects like tefillin and Sefer Torah with more reverence than they treat their physical objects, which is the Buddha statue.
Right.
Right. But the Buddha itself, which is a concept, is Avodah Zarah.
Wait, so actually,
Even if the stone-
technically,
It's serious pilpul.
their temples wouldn't be technically.
It is because they worship the Buddha.
No, I'm saying like
They're worshiping Buddha. Even the statues aren't Avodah Zarah, but the temple is a place where they're worshiping Avodah Zarah.
No, what I'm saying, their temples they don't worship.
They don't worship the Buddha.
No, there's no
What do they do?
worshiping. They train,
Like
they
out
meditate,
That's their form of worship.
but they meditate in their rooms.
Yeah, that's
So
their form.
there's no public. There's no like a public.
This is a room designated for that kind of worship.
There's no for Buddhism. There's no room dedicated to worship. There's a complex, and they just live there. Like Buddhist monks live in a
I
complex,
don't know the halachas
and
on that.
Yeah.
they strive to be one within themselves for Buddha.
So
that's like
you can go to a monk.
self-meditation.
You can go to a monk convent,
Yeah.
let's say, but you couldn't walk into the chapel.
Okay, that's what
Right.
I'm trying to say. Maybe if they have a, you're saying
So,
maybe
for example,
dedicated room.
You can go to the Vatican.
Yeah, sure.
You can go to the Vatican,
There's some-
but you can't go to the Sistine Chapel, for example. The Sistine Chapel is
Ah.
dedicated once a year. They do mass.
Right.
And go to the Vatican.
Like Vatican City.
Yeah.
You saying like
When
Vatican?
I was in Rome, I called it
There's a
Rav. When I was in Rome, I called it Rav, and the Rav told me I'm allowed to go in. Because my wife and I are about to go in. I'm like, I'm not going in there. I'm not walking to a place responsible for the death of millions of Jews.
Did you go under the arch? It's like an arch.
I went to the
That's
mom at the
walk
entrance. And I'm
around
like, I'm not walking this place. It's not happening. I felt so uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm out of here. Not happening.
There's a close restaurant in Vatican City. Isn't there?
In the Vatican itself, could be. Yeah, I've been the gates of the city. I'm like, no way a bearded Jew is walking with yarmulke and taking pictures of this place responsible for how many deaths of Jews are. Not for me. Anyway, it's not a joke.
You just wanna go.
I went to-
you wanna go to their boat.
I went with my family to Rome. Yeah, we went to Hungary just recently. So this non-Jewish tour guide taking us around Prague. I tell him, I say, see that church? Yeah, it's like very, very important for our family. It's like, really? It's like, yeah, because this church, there was a priest, his friend Joseph, I think that was his name. He preached that his congregants should rape and kill my family. I was like, I don't know, maybe not, but probably he didn't appreciate my joke.
Yeah, you know.
That's probably true. Actually, I met an Israeli and he didn't want to put on phone. I thought, yeah, come. I told him that same joke. He started laughing. I'm like, we got to go just for that. So he did. Because I told him you have to get back at them. He's like, okay, we'll do it. All right. The joke had a value. You know, the guy didn't appreciate it. All right. Anyway, okay, have a wonderful day.
I guess it's grandfather.
No problem.
Reminds me of all those